most important, I think, it was the Native people um, who were willing to take me on. And that always amazes me, you know, that these people were willing to reach out to me and try and educate me. I don't know what they saw, whether that I was ready or open to hearing it, or whether they were just willing to try. I was young, and maybe I would hear them in a way that someone who was already set in their ways wouldn't hear them. But all these incredible Native people were ultimately willing to trust me. And I mean, and I say ultimately because it takes a long time to develop trust in another place. But to educate me, to trust me, and to then hope that I would reciprocate. And that's the next place that I want to go in talking about this, is the things I've come to understand, and I've been thinking about it a lot as we work on this project. And the first thing is that when you go to Native people and you ask them for help, it's not a one-shot. You are entering into a reciprocal relationship. And if you're asking them to help you, to help, in this case, the Children's Museum, better represent them, do a better job of educating non-Native people, then you've got a responsibility back. And it is whatever they need. But it's reciprocal. It means going to funerals, going to celebrations, taking a stand if you're asked to take a stand, acting if you're asked to act, showing up, being there, being present. And I thought about all that, and I thought, what does that mean? I think it means being a friend. Being a friend, you know, about that. So it's reciprocal. And I think a lot of museum people, and I don't want to generalize, but my sense is that sometimes people don't understand that it's not a one-shot, that this is long-term. This is, you're in. If you're in and people begin to trust you, then they believe that you're going to be there for them in the same way that they're being there for you. So I think that's really important. The other thing I've learned, and this is really hard, is that to be a participant in this whole event, for want of a better word, or process, it may be a better word, it means giving up authority and giving up control. And, you know, as a Caucasian, I'm used to what is called in the jargon white privilege. You know, I get to speak, people look at me, I have a master's, I have a PhD, people assume that I am the source of knowledge, the authority. And what's real here is that I'm not. The authority, the source of knowledge, are the people from the community. And it's a big piece to learn, to be quiet. You know, even if you think you know, and there's a meeting going on, be quiet, because the people who are speaking are the people of the culture. I had to learn that when I did the Toma Joseph exhibit too. I did the enormous, Toma Joseph was a Passamaquoddy Native American artist. He was active from 1882 to 1914. He did spectacular drawings on birch bark that recorded his entire culture. And that's what I wrote my PhD about. And I did an enormous amount of library work on a particular question of what something meant. And I spent hours and hours and hours. And then I presented it to our advisory board, my advisory board, which was the Passamaquoddy Advisory Board. And I presented it, and there was dead silence. This is 1993. And what I was presenting was what I was going to put into the exhibition. And it was there for their approval. And dead silence. And I've learned from many, many advisory board meetings that when there's dead silence, you are in a lot of trouble. So, silence. And finally, Wayne Newell, who is a good friend of mine and who was really one of my very first mentors back at Harvard, said, "Joan, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. We don't want it in the exhibit." And what you want to say to yourself, yeah, but I spent all this time working on this, and I'm so excited to have found this out. And here I'm being told it isn't in. And you know what? It's never gone in. And when people ask me, they say, "Do you think such and so?" And I say, "I don't know," when I do know. And what happened after that in the meeting was 2 hours of discussion, of people sharing, of the families, the Thomas Joseph's families, sharing with me stories that confirmed what I had learned. But it'll never show up. It'll never be anywhere, because that's about respect. You know, that's about giving up authority. The other thing I think, and this is related, is you give up control. You know, when you're working, you're working on an exhibit and you're the developer, you get to decide where this goes and what the label says and which is going in and what isn't going in and how many and so forth. If you start working with Native people, guess what? They begin to decide what's going in and what isn't going in and what color it is and what color they like and whether they like the label or not. And it's another piece of giving up power. So it's about reciprocity, it's about giving up power, which to me means giving up authority or acknowledging that you are not the final authority, and giving up control to the Native people who haven't had this control before, even though they should have. So big pieces of 30 years of hanging out and trying to understand all this. The other thing that I should have said earlier is the very first thing I had to do was learn to listen. And that's not easy for me, because I listen and then I say, yes, but, or how about this, or that, and what I had to learn was to be quiet and listen, and really listen, not just but open up and hear what you're being told. And then, if you can, try and accept it. And or at least try to understand it and take it in. And then it's up to you to decide as a person whether you can accept it or at least know that it is out there. And when you say, well, Joan, what are you talking about? Well, legends are not legends, they're oral history.